From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for the October 4th edition of Carolina Week. I'm Nicole Brusick.
And I'm Bridget Williams. We're proud to be bringing you coverage of Carolina news and events. Here in Chapel Hill, we're proud of being the oldest public university in the nation, but the prestige of age has its price, $500 million, part of an even bigger bond issue on the ballot this November. Carolina Week's Katie Parley has more.
Aging classrooms are in need of repair in order for the university to keep up with the technologically advancing world. Chapel Hill sophomore Heather Macera plans to vote for the bonds for just that reason.
The university is the oldest one of its kind, and there are just things that need to be done, so hence it needs a lot of money.
In 1999, the North Carolina legislature asked a committee to assess the needs of all 16 schools in the UNC system and submit a report to the legislature. The submission outlined the need for major repairs and renovations in the historic buildings on the campuses. Here in the basement of the music library, for example, water damage and low piping have caused all of these books to be pushed into a little area that the librarians are starting to call the catacombs. $3.1 billion is what's needed system-wide, and that's a lot of money. Voter Christine Davis had some concerns, and University of North Carolina President Molly Broad has some answers.
Well, how it would affect my taxes would be something that's real important that I would like to know more about.
We worked very closely with Harlan Boyles, who is the state treasurer and who is arguably among the most fiscally conservative public officials in the country. He says that it is entirely possible to service the debt on this bond issue without any increase in taxes.
How are they going to be able to help the students with that, as well as spiffing up the campus? Like, are they going to be building parking lots with it, or are they going to be providing more services and more things for the students?
The funds will go exclusively to the buildings that are defined in the legislation. Each project is specifically identified with a budgeted amount.
This issue is a referendum, so voters can individually give their opinions on November 3rd. In Chapel Hill, I'm Katie Parley, Carolina Week.
The bonds will be issued over a 6-year period beginning in 2001.
The new master plan that calls for expanding UNC's South Campus continues to create tension between school officials and neighbors who would lose their home in the process. Local residents packed Town Hall recently to voice their concerns about possible expansion. The meeting began with university officials presenting slides of maps, facts about the plans, and photos of the area in question. Resident spokesperson Ken Brown asked if UNC would use eminent domain if owners refuse to sell. Officials say that isn't part of the plan right now. Nothing has been resolved, but homeowners say even though questions remain, the meeting wasn't a complete failure because it brought attention to their problems.
So that I think it really is not just our neighborhood's issue. I think it's something that everybody realizes is going to have a great impact on what happens in Chapel Hill.
More meetings are planned because local residents and UNC officials are still hoping they can find a resolution. Carolina students may have less to complain about this year because of improvements to the academic advising system. Many of those changes are just now going into effect. Students now have several choices for getting in touch with their advisors to work out class schedules. UNC's academic advising system has added more staff and increased student advisor email communication. Students can take advantage of new advising websites and online appointment scheduling. Team advising and online registration should eliminate some of those long lines outside advisors' doors.
Diversity is very important on the UNC campus, so the Office of Minority Affairs is diversifying its student recruitment programs. Meet UNC junior Ideal Polanco. She's the new face in the Office of Minority Affairs Student Recruitment Department. This school year, the office decided to add Polanco to the team to help build Hispanic student presence at the university. Polanco came up with the idea last year while working with the office and the Carolina Hispanic Association, also called CHISPA. She acts as a liaison between the office and the organization. The office already has students working on African American and Native American student recruitment, and Polanco says a Hispanic student sector was needed.
There's a big Hispanic increase in the area and in the United States in general. I thought that it was about time that, the Office of Minority Affairs added a facet that addressed Hispanic recruitment.
Currently, Hispanics make up less than 2% of UNC's student population.
Many of North Carolina's secondary and elementary schools may have too many students and not enough teachers. Carolina Week's Angie McKinney has more about the growing problem of teacher shortage.
Reading books and playing with kids is fun, right? Then why aren't more people doing it? Some of the teachers and administrators at Frank Porter Graham Elementary School in Carborough have some answers. Veteran teacher Judy Jagier says that large class size is one problem. Jagier says that even though the state may have restrictions on class size, the state can decide to let more people into the class.
The fact is that if more students come in, the state just gives you a waiver, and that is a big factor because there's a huge difference between 24 and 29.
The vice principal of the school, Ross McLaughlin, says that teachers' salary is another big issue.
Going into education in some ways is a lot like taking a vow of poverty, and nobody goes into education expecting to make a lot of money.
The money issue may be one factor that's keeping a lot of UNC students from choosing to study education.
Many students who are trained as teachers choose not to become teachers, and others are leaving the state to become teachers elsewhere.
If students decide to become teachers, their first couple years of teaching aren't easy. First-year teacher Neil Parrott says,
"It's just starting out. It's rough, but you get better at it, and it gets smooth, and then you sort of get into this point of you start experimenting and trying out how you want things to be done well."
Some educators say smaller classes would help them do what they do well, and better pay would attract more qualified people to become teachers. In Carborough, I'm Angie McKinney, Carolina Week.
Frank Porter Graham Elementary School has all of its teaching positions filled, but that isn't the case in other schools across the state.
Well, it's a special birthday for a special UNC alumnus. We'll tell you about the party when we continue.
Also after the break, talking. It seems UNC students just can't stop talking, just like the rest of the world.
North Carolina is where the wonders never cease. It's where visitors and residents alike can be touched by these things and always remember the embrace of clouds around a mountain peak, sparkling water forever in a hurry, a bridge less traveled, an enchanted wetland forest, and the place where the sun meets the sea.
What services come to mind when you think of the American Red Cross?
The Red Cross does blood drives, don't they?
They help out with natural disasters.
Giving blood.
Tornadoes and hurricanes.
Blood.
Natural disasters.
I'll bet you didn't know that the American Red Cross also provides emergency services for military families and delivers health and safety instruction in first aid, lifeguard training, and CPR. Contact your local Red Cross chapter to learn more about the services they provide.
With more than 90 million people using cell phones and a new 30,000 every day, it's no wonder universities are full of cell phone carriers. A professor is lecturing to his class about the midterm exam next week when someone's cell phone goes off. Is this disruption just part of life in the 21st century, or is it considered bad manners? The university has no official policy on cell phones, but people around campus have personal opinions about cell phone use in the libraries and classrooms.
I'd say it's a discourtesy. Sometimes they're set very quietly and they don't present a problem, and I see students sometimes getting a message and then walking outside to answer. And sometimes people answer very quietly, but sometimes they really do cause a problem with their conversations in the library.
Student Jennifer Reed says there are ways to avoid having your cell phone ring in public.
Well, class, I turn it off, and my parents and friends know when I'm in class. They don't call me during class times anyway. The library, I just turn it on a lower ring, and I don't really mind. I apologize to the people around me if it disturbs them, but anything beyond that, I can't really control.
In addition to apologizing if your cell phone rings, you can purchase one with a variety of ringing sounds. For example, no one hears Joe Margola's phone when it goes off.
It says vibrate. And so what I often do when I go to class, usually I have it on when I'm out here on the yard, but when I'm in class, I will switch it on to vibrate so that if it does in fact go off, I'm the only one that knows about it.
And you should be the only one to know when your phone is ringing, especially if you're in class or in a quiet study environment. Here's a look at what experts suggest on cell phone etiquette. First, be considerate. Next, turn your ringer off in the class and down in the library. And it's okay to ask people to move elsewhere. And finally, try to purchase a phone with the vibrating option.
For some North Carolina students, the idea of studying abroad seems as distant as the countries themselves. But the North Carolina General Assembly hopes it can make those dreams more affordable. Recently, it granted permanent funding to the statewide exchange program. That means you can be in Mexico and still pay your school's tuition. So far, only Germany and Mexico are part of the program. UNC students wanting to build memories by studying abroad have lots of options, and you can see what works best for you by visiting the Study Abroad Center near Haynes Arts Center. Famous UNC alumnus and literary legend Thomas Wolfe will be honored this entire month by the university. Wolfe is from the class of 1920 and called UNC as close to magic as I've ever been. City dignitaries and university leaders gathered in the pit to start the celebration. The event ended with a singing of Happy Birthday by UNC's a cappella group, the Loreleis. Wolfe will also be awarded his own U.S. stamp in honor of his birthday. University Centennial Committee Chairman Joseph Flora has also helped establish a lecture series in honor of one of Carolina's favorite sons.
We inaugurate the Thomas Wolfe Prize in Lectureship on October the 17th, 7:30 in Memorial Hall. Our first recipient will be named Tom Wolfe. That's a piece of poetry, of course.
The first lecturer in the series is Tom Wolfe. He is most famous for his best-selling novels The Bonfire of the Vanities and A Man in Full.
Some students who don't like to hike to campus can now bike to campus. Many students brought bikes at the annual bike auction sponsored by service fraternity Alpha Phi Omega. Hundreds of used bikes lined the wall of the Great Hall in the Student Union before the event. Bikes came in all colors, shapes, and sizes, some in good condition and some were not. One bike sold for $100, another sold for $25. All bikes sold at the auction were abandoned on the UNC campus. The Department of Transportation collected the bikes and sold them to Alpha Phi Omega to auction. More than 150 people showed up to bid for bikes. A few bidders couldn't wait and pedaled their way out of the building. Bike owners could register their bikes with the Department of Public Safety. The bike auction raised about $1,200. Alpha Phi Omega will donate the money to charity.
Field hockey holds back 2 ACC rivals. Sports is still to come.
And we're hoping to hold the cold weather back just a little longer. Meteorologist Lee Ringer lets us know just how many more days we have to be hanging around outside.
One out of 20 people in the United States has been infected with hepatitis B. 2 billion people in the world have had hepatitis B in their lifetime. 80% of newborns that are infected with hepatitis B are likely to have it for life. More people are infected with hepatitis B than HIV. Many people have it and don't know it. There is no cure yet, but it is preventable, and there is support and treatment. For more information, visit our webpage or email us at info@hepb.org.
Every 18 minutes, another name is added to the list of persons waiting for life-saving organs. In North Carolina, your decision to donate will not be carried out unless your legal next of kin gives consent at the time of your death, even if you've indicated it on your driver's license with a red heart. Share your life, share your decision, so that your wishes may be carried out for you and someone else's wish can come true.
A freshman's first day in Phillips Hall is a humbling experience. You need to get to the 3rd floor,
but not every stairwell leads you there. Just as in life, take the wrong way up and you won't get anywhere. None of the corridors make sense. It's like being in a huge maze at 7:57 while you're looking for your 8 o'clock class. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
This has been some really nice weather the past couple days.
Yeah, it definitely has. Is this weather going to last for those weekend vacation plans, Lee?
Unfortunately, we're going to see some changes in the forecast for the weekend. We'll talk about that coming up in just a minute. But first, we have a weather question for you guys to think about, and I'll give you a chance to answer that coming up in just a moment. Well, we are still in hurricane season, and that's what our weather question will be about today. When does hurricane season end? It's not over yet. When does it end? Does it end October 15th, October 31st, November the 7th, or D, November 30th? We'll give you a few minutes to think about that. We'll have the answer coming up in just a moment. Well, it certainly has been a nice week to be on the outside this week. Temperatures for highs were in the mid-80s. Great days to have class on the outside, but like I said, we could see some changes coming up in the forecast. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those weather features that will be making those changes in the forecast. We'll take a look at those weather features in just a moment. But like I said, we have been in the mid-80s this week. That is a little above average for the month of October. In fact, the average high during the month of October is 73 degrees. We typically are a little warmer, of course, during the beginning of the month, and an average low temperature of 47. We're actually going to see temperatures below average as we head into the weekend, and average rainfall a little over 3 inches of rain. We're picking up some rain as we head into the weekend too. Let's go ahead and take a look at that surface map, and here's what will be affecting our weather. This is our weather pattern during midweek, and this frontal system here will be moving through our area, and it's going to bring some changes in the forecast as we head into the weekend. Now, this little low pressure system off the coast, it's not a tropical system, will not play an effect in our weather, so we're not too worried about that. But this frontal system will be moving through late in the day Friday, will bring us some showers and thunderstorms maybe Friday afternoon, and this is a cold front. Behind it, some Arctic air as this high pressure builds in for Saturday and Sunday. And temperatures will be dropping. We'll see that as we take a look at our Carolina Week 4-day forecast. For Friday, the day may start off partly cloudy, and if it does so, we may get a little warmer than this high temperature of 77 degrees, but I think late in the day, Friday afternoon, could pick up some thunderstorms and see some rain. As we head into Saturday, though, we'll notice those temperatures begin to drop. Still could maybe see a slight chance of a shower into the first part of the day Saturday. I think the second half should be okay for Saturday afternoon. We'll say a high temperature of 65, and this is when it gets cold on Sunday. Bring out the jackets and the sweaters. 58 for a high, 42 for a low. Monday morning, going to be quite cold with a low temperature of 38 degrees. Maybe you're headed to the beaches this weekend. Well, a chance of some thunderstorms in the afternoon Friday, maybe a little chance of rain into the first part of the day on Saturday. Highs mid-80s on Friday, high near 70 on Saturday. Maybe you're headed to the mountains. Well, that mountain forecast looks like this. Once again, we may see some showers in the forecast on Friday, but I think Saturday should be an okay day for the mountains, but getting cold there too as we head through the weekend. Well, we gave you guys a chance to think about that weather question for this week. When do you think hurricane season ends?
Ooh, probably when one hits my house. That's when it's going to end. No, October 31st is my guess.
Actually, hurricane season goes all the way through the month of November, and the last day of hurricane season is November 30th. Nothing out in the tropics right now, but we'll keep an eye on it through November. Weekend looking kind of chilly. Bring out the sweaters and the jackets.
We'll do so. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks a lot. The Tar Heels lose a tough one on the gridiron. The lowlights are coming up in sports.
But on the brighter side, it was a career kind of a day for one Carolina lady as women's soccer team takes on Duke. Kevin Biggins and sports. One Carolina Week continues.
What could you do with a free hour of your day?
Take a jog, wash your car, bake a cake, or watch TV.
Ever thought about giving blood? It only takes an hour. It saved my life. Someday it may save yours.
A single pint of blood can save 3 lives. Be a hero. Give blood.
The second floor of Davis is where students go to pseudo-study. No real studying occurs here. Girls sit in the cushy chairs to scope out guys as they come up the stairs. I've never witnessed the exam break streaking that occurs there, but I'd like to see it before I graduate. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the Student News Show.
Big win this past weekend.
Yeah, it's always nice to beat Duke in no matter what sport we're playing. In women's soccer action, the Tar Heels with a big game versus arch rival Duke, and a big hat-trick performance by Susan Bush. The match carries 3 Carlisle Cup points, as well as implications in the race for the ACC crown. Carolina Week's Joe Disney was there.
In front of a record crowd at Fetzer Field, sophomore Susan Bush has a night to remember. Bush scores her first career hat trick with 3 goals along with 2 assists to lead the 4th-ranked Tar Heels past number 11 Duke. Bush was excited about her career performance against Duke in a big game and thinks the win will help the Tar Heels in other ways too.
It feels really good. We're disappointed in our ranking right now, and we're trying to fight back to be number 1.
Now, regardless of national rankings or ACC standings, any Duke-UNC clash is a big game on both teams' schedules. It was all the more important for UNC, only 1-1 in ACC play. Facing the challenge, UNC dominated the Duke Blue Devils, outshooting their opponents 29-7 en route to a 6-1 victory. UNC coach Anson Dorrance is pleased with this team's play.
You know, I think we've got all kinds of weapons. We scored off of, throw-ins and all kinds of different ways, and this team is that kind of team. I think we're going to score some very exciting goals, and we have the potential to be a good team.
Another hint of previous Carolina dominance came as senior Meredith Florence scored 2 goals to place her 11th all-time at UNC in career goals. With the win, the Tar Heels found themselves in a more comfortable position in the top echelon of the ACC standings. The loss at Clemson in mid-September had put them in the middle of the ACC pack. The impressive performance by the Tar Heels against Duke seems to have put Carolina on track for another run at ACC and NCAA titles. In Chapel Hill, I'm Joe Disney, Carolina Week.
The Tar Heels have a substantial break in the season. They don't play again until an October 11th match with another ACC foe, NC State. The Tar Heel football team is recovering from a Yellow Jacket sting, but for a quarter and a half, it looked like the result of the game would be different. The Tar Heels came out of the gates with a great deal of momentum, and it carried on to the field. Here, Ronald Curry finds Sam Aiken for this 7-yard TD pass. The Heels and Jackets went into the locker room at halftime, tied at 14-all. Third quarter was a nightmare for the Heels. Here, the Blake Ferguson punt is blocked by Chris Young, and Tony Hollings recovers for a touchdown. Tar Heels make a comeback thanks to this Ronald Curry 46-yard touchdown run. Curry on his horse not pictured, as he outruns the defenders. But the Jackets' swarm was too much as Georgia Tech goes on to win 42-28. Coach Carl Torbush was troubled about the loss.
Very disappointing, a game that I felt like we could win and should win, and after about a quarter and a half, I thought we had been playing great. From that point on, I thought everything went downhill.
Carolina's field hockey team is in its ACC schedule. The team's national ranking dropped from number 2 to number 5 in recent weeks, so the Tar Heels were looking to bounce back. Carolina Week's Ayanna Banks has that story.
Carolina hosting the number 7 Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who take an early 1-0 lead. Junior Abby Woolley scores off of a penalty corner, tying the game at 1. The Tar Heels move ahead just before the half with the help of senior Kristen McCain. Scary moment in the second, senior Erin Cox hit by the ball in the eye, halting the game nearly 5 minutes. She wouldn't return to play the rest of the weekend. McCain scored once again with an assist from Abby Martin. Down 3-1, the Deacons attempt a small comeback, but UNC holds on to its lead and wins 3-2. Fast forward to Sunday and 8 miles down the road. Coming off of a loss, number 17 Duke looks quicker and more focused than Carolina. The Tar Heels up by 1, but Duke takes advantage of a penalty corner and ties it up at 1. Carolina shuts out the Devils in the second half and beats them 2-1. Coach Karen Shelton says the team needs to play harder.
Well, I'm delighted to have 2 wins against very good opponents in Wake Forest and Duke, and 2 important ACC wins for us. So I'm very happy and thrilled that we came out with 2 victories. I'm not so happy about the way we played today.
However, the team is 10-1 on the season and has now beaten Duke 44 straight times. In Chapel Hill, I'm Ayanna Banks, Carolina Week.
Krista McCann is the ACC Player of the Week for the second time this season, and Carolina takes a 9-0 lead in the battle for the Carlisle Cup against Duke. The UNC Challenge could be renamed UNC Domination for the women's cross-country team, but challenge is still the right word for the men. Both squads were victorious Saturday against VCU and UNC Charlotte in the only home meet for the Tar Heels this season. The women placed 3 out of the top 4 runners, including Shalane Flanagan, who won her 3rd race of the season. On the men's side, it was a lot closer as the Heels eked out a 2-point victory. Tar Heel leader Terrence McCray finished 3rd overall with a time of 26 minutes and 19 seconds, and it was the Tar Heel depth that led to the win. 4 out of the top 9 runners were from UNC. Up next for the men and the women, the NCAA preview at Iowa State on October 14th. Well, now that Carolina students are on fall break, fall sports takes a little bit of a mini vacation, but after fall break, things heat up again and kick off with Carolina State next Saturday.
Good,
Wow,
we'll be there.
Exciting. If you live near campus, you're probably all too familiar with walking to school.
Now the rest of the community learns what it's like to leave the cars at home and get to class the old-fashioned way.
The Women's Center, may I help you?
The Women's Center is a nonprofit agency that has served as a meeting place for women in the Triangle since 1979, making it one of the oldest freestanding women's centers in the country. The mission of the Women's Center is to provide a supportive community where all women can inspire each other to grow, both personally and professionally.
I was going through a crisis at home, and I contacted Helpline, and they referred me directly to the Women's Center.
I think the Women's Center is really important for the community because it offers so many different kinds of resources, and if we don't have the resource here, we can find an avenue or a way for women to find the answers that they need.
It is inspiring. It's so exciting to be a part of something that really matters and really changes things.
You can support the Women's Center through membership or by sending a contribution to the Women's Center, 210 Henderson Street, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27514.
The Ronald McDonald House is a nonprofit organization that provides a home away from home for families of children being treated at UNC hospitals. Since opening in 1988, the house has welcomed more than 1,000 families each year to stay at this safe haven. The house relies heavily on community support. How can you help? Become a volunteer. Help the house that love built. The Ronald McDonald House, the house with a heart.
Walking to school isn't something kids would normally be excited about.
But today wasn't a typical day for some kids, both right around here and all around the world. Smiling young faces gathered at Chapel Hill Public Library waiting to walk to school. Wednesday marked the first International Walk to School Day. Students and their parents walked from the library to Estes Hills Elementary School to promote safety and health. McGruff, the drug dog, and a crash test dummy also joined the fun to talk to kids about safety. Children carried signs encouraging walking as a great alternative to driving to school. Drinks were provided for the students when they arrived at the school. That does it for this edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for watching.
And be sure to join us back next week.
Until then, have a great fall break. If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292 or carolinaweek@unc.edu. If you have questions or concerns about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina 27599.